Hello, audience. Welcome to another episode of Ramble Shrapnel. Please do not be confused. This is not a main episode of Ramble Shamble. It's still part of the same podcast. You still got the fabulous Mackie, who's currently speaking, and joined by, he had to come along sometime, Jotun. Jotun, tell the audience that you exist, please, so I don't just not talking to myself.
Hello from the ether.
You see, I'm not by myself, guys. I'm not hearing voices. He is somewhere. He although I don't see him face to face, he is there. Okay, just be aware, he is there. Now, guys, if you don't know Ramble Shrapnel, I'm going very brief because we don't have much time. We try to keep these episodes very short, to 20 to 50 minutes. So if you're having a fun time in the toilet, you can listen to it. I don't want to ask what you do in the toilet. It's you and you to do. So it's a small episode of the main episode of Ramble Shamble. And this episode is going to be based on the episode from Superstitions. Ooh. Gasp, touch wood. touch. But yes, Superstitions was the topic of the episode. And there was no one decided to tell us about their answer to the question, which is very sad. But that doesn't matter because we have plenty of things to discuss. And one of the items is the superstitions revolving around Nicola Tesla. Now, I don't know too much because I'm not a history nerd like my co-host over here is. He is a true history nerd, a history boffin, if you want to call him in a more positive way of saying. But he knows a lot more stuff. So I know from my, because Nicola Tesla is an engineer, I know he has some weird out of the box thinking, but I know he's a very great engineer, often looked down, often envied by many other engineers. But Jotun, I heard something regarding Nicola Tesla having some superstition revolving around pigeons. Is that a real thing? Please, can you confirm? Tell the audience. I'm writing down right as we speak. Gasp.
Yeah, okay. So for all of you people who really want to have a bit of a chuckle by learning about one of the biggest historical figures, at least in the world of technology, I really, really recommend that you look up on Nikola Tesla's like weird things, quirks that he had about him. The thing with pigeons was now this man had OCD and he genuinely had this obsession with pigeons. Okay. He would spend hours every week in the park feeding them and taking home any that he would find injured. Now, he was basically like a little child in that regard. He would take them home and basically nurse them until they got back on their feet or back in the air, back on the wing. Um, and he would often leave his hotel room open so that basically the pigeons could do just whatever they want. Now, I'm sure all of you in the US and especially New York can attest to the fact of how much a problem those pigeons can be. But he didn't give a damn. He just let them run around inside. So I think he even asked a hotel chef to prepare like a special blend of seeds for the pigeons. And yeah, and it's a little bit contrary to what you would think because he was also germophobic. Um, and so having a whole bunch of bird poop and feathers and stuff around isn't the most sanitary of things. But he didn't give a damn because he loved them so much. So much so, in fact, that he basically fell in love with a white pigeon. Um, yeah. It is said that he said, I love that pigeon as a man loves a woman, and she loved me. As long as I had her, there was a purpose to my life.
Ooh.
And that is like pretty borderline obsession. Um,
I know so if you guys don't know Nikola Tesla, he had some very, like Jotun described, very a lot of OCD traits, but any engineer or inventor will attest that that man was truly brilliant. But like all weird scientists and engineers of our time, Albert Einstein, probably one of the most well known scientists a mathematician of the time, he did some weird stuff as well. Because I remember one time he went in a hotel. Somebody, I don't know why these guys ever go to hotels. I always assume that they had stayed in their basements or some kind, but they need light as well. But Albert Einstein would go down to the hotel room, to the buffet area where everyone was eating, and he would go fully dressed in his pajamas, so slippers, his bathrobe half tied around his waist. He probably was wearing a shirt and his nice comfy pajama pants, and he would just take what he wanted, sat at his table, and ate happily. And everyone looked at him very surprised and shocked to their core. Woo-hoo. So yeah, Nikola Tesla, she's so
Yeah,
he
he
fell in
was.
love with a pigeon.
Yeah, man, he was a real crackpot, just to put it very bluntly. But he also had this weird obsession with the number three. Before he would get into a building, he would circumnavigate the building 3 times, whether he was in a car or or he was in just like walking the street. He would walk around the block 3 times, because I don't know, the universe would end or something if he didn't. Um, and I think it might even be safe to say that he was a bit psychotic, because I think that this stuff is hallucinations that he was having, because just to a little extent, because he thought that that pigeon that he was in love with showed up in his life to tell him that he was going to die, like an omen or something. And
Oh.
yeah, and just before the bird died, he he said that he saw like a bright light in its eyes, and it was brighter than anything he had ever made with his machines. And
Mm.
apparently, just before he died, he said that his life's work was done now that the bird was dead. And that's real dodgy to me, bro. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Like I say, we envied him, but you.
yeah. Now, he did have a few more uh, like things with the number three. He like constantly avoided places that didn't have something to do with three. Like he wouldn't go to a hotel if
But if it was 3, is it like it needs to be a factor of 3, so it can be like 18? Or does it have to have a
yeah,
specific number
it's
3?
it is a factor. So if the
Um,
numbers inside the hotel were not divisible by the number three, he would refuse to go there.
so like 32, you would say, nah, sorry.
Yeah, no. 27 is
Uh,
fine. 32.
Even
No.
though 32 has the number 3 in it, because it's obviously 32. So that's what I'm trying to understand. So it has to be divisible by 3, or
Yeah,
a, a,
exactly.
a factor of 3.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Wow,
And
that's a lot of things.
yeah, and I think that he was also like, if the number three wasn't involved with whatever he was doing, then that would also be a no go for him. So I guess he had to brush his teeth 3 times a day, or brush it 3 times after every meal, which happened 3 times a day, or whatever. He would have a problem with it. Um, and it's also like extended towards his obsession with the pyramids, as people, as most of you probably know, he the pyramids in Giza are three, at least the three great pyramids, and he
I was about to
believed,
say, but they have more than 3 sides.
yeah, and he believed that they were like some vortex channel that generated energy to the cosmos through the ground and weird stuff like that. I think he basically believed that there was some kind of massive Tesla tower or Tesla coil. Um, so yeah, man, he had some real uh, weird beliefs about it, and something about their shape and where they were located, he thought had something to do with like the universal language of maths. And I think you can say that maths is a universal language, but he took it to weird places. Just put it that way.
That's actually a really strong trait of an engineer, though, because
Yeah.
like I've described before, engineer and scientists like yourself, Jotun, because you are a form of a scientist, need to look at the world in a different way than the more common folk who focus more on the politics and that kind of thing. And even they have to see the world in a different view, because in politics you always have to speak to the masses of the people, and there is manipulation in there as well. But the number 3 is such an interesting kind of OCD situation, because for myself, I've always grown up and I've always loved the number 5 and all multiples of 5. But 3 always felt a bit off for me, because 3 just felt like an incomplete number, like a number that's not quite decide what it wants to be. If it wants to be closer to the smaller side, or it wants to be part of the big boys. 5 felt like the perfect middle ground of like, maybe that's the perfect description of me. Maybe I'm just an average Joe. Hey, maybe the 5 is just such an average number. But I don't think now that Mackie now goes around a building 5 times in a row, or brushes his teeth 5 times a day. I would have no gums by then.
Yeah.
So does that mean he has to eat 3 meals, or his meal has to be comprised of 3 items on his plate at all times?
Well, I think whatever you can think of, to be honest. As many
And if he needs to go
threes
to
as he
floor
could,
2,
then that would be a problem for him.
what if it's like floor 1? Like he
Also a
won't be able to go
problem.
to floor 1.
I think that would also be a
What?
problem. So,
That is, oh my gosh.
yeah. Now it's like the extent to which this had a thing in his life is really weird. He would always swim 33 laps inside a pool. He would fold his napkin 18 times. And yeah, like the hotel thing. It's just so weird. I bet you he had like 3 mistresses with his pigeon as well. 3 pigeon mistresses, for all we know.
Oh, jeez, that's such a weird fact of him. I actually did not know that he had such a weird obsession with 3. So he was just superstitious that if the 3 wasn't kept, he just believed like all hell would let loose or something like that. Obviously.
Now we're getting close to the end of this episode already, but or we are at the end of it. But just to leave off, something that he was really, really afraid of, or maybe not afraid of, but cautious of, was that he would refuse to talk to women who wore pearls. Like he would just completely refuse. And yeah, man, why? Like, just try to think about that. Why would he? What a weird thing to make a rule in your life.
He definitely had some weird things in his closet that he just wanted to let loose. But yes, guys, we are at the end of this episode. Unfortunately, it is shorter than the main episode. But we strongly recommend, if this interests you, you may be, how to say, a lot interested in the superstitions that we discussed in the main episode. Now, guys, we try to keep these episodes short. And until then, I think that, unless Yotin, did I miss anything? Should we conclude the episode right here now?
I think that we have talked about it to death, but it's really interesting. I recommend that viewers, or rather listeners, just look at a list of what crazy things he believed in, because it's really surprising, and I don't know um, how a person can get to those kinds of conclusions.
Okay, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this shorter episode. Again, give us a like on whatever podcast platform you decide to listen to us. And until then, this is bye from Mackie.
Bye bye, everyone. See you next time.